All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on smarter personalization and faster execution with AI. My name is Christina Vaggi. I'm the Director of Strategy at Silvertech. I want to do some quick intros today. We're so glad that you joined us. We've got a lot to cover today, and it's a really exciting topic. So again, my name is Christina Vaggi. I am the Director of Strategy at Silvertech. Silvertech is a full-service digital agency, and I'm joined today by Azia. Azia, you want to give us a quick intro?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. This is Asia, Senior Manager Product Marketing for Sitefinity at Progress. And Sitefinity is a content management system that enables hyper-personalized experiences, generative experiences, dynamically generated adaptive experiences. And I'm so glad to be here today together with Christina. And back to you.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here too because we work really closely with Sitefinity. We love you guys. We have such a great relationship and the platform is so interesting. And I'm so excited to show off some of the capabilities today and have a larger conversation about AI and how this is affecting marketers today. So today we're going to go through some things, some common bottlenecks. What are we all kind of struggling with? Because I want you to see that our challenges are shared. It's not just you, it's all of us. And then we want to talk a little bit about that shift to predictive personalization, how AI can really supplement our efforts, what an AI-ready CMS means, how does that affect you in real life? And then we'll go through some of those features and benefits, and then we're going to wrap up with some next steps so that when you leave here today, you've got some concrete items you can take with you and start thinking about when you're looking at how do we bring AI into the organization and really use it to impact our business outcomes. So why does AI feel hard? This is such an interesting conversation because when we first started working with AI, when AI kind of first came out and we were all kind of like talking about what is this chat GPT thing, it was pretty basic, right? Like I used to advise clients, because they would come to me and they would say, Christina, how do we use this tech? Should we be using this technology? How do we use this technology? And I used to tell them, like, let's just all kind of feel it out. Let's sort of use it for the simple things like writing meta data, like meta descriptions, optimizing for SEO, that kind of stuff. We are so much further than that now in such a short time. And that's really, I think, why it feels more challenging right now. So, like, for instance, right now, we're really waiting on developers. We're using AI in so many different ways beyond just what content is on the page that's really bringing in that technical element, which means that sometimes we're waiting on developers and our friends in IT in order to get these projects up and off the ground. And the problem is everything moves so fast in digital that when you're part of a backlog, you may not get there. And by the time you get there, the window has closed. And I think that that's a real challenge. Additionally, we have data siloed. I can't tell you how many times a client will say to me, like, we have so much data and it's all in different places. Our customer data is in our CRM. Our web analytics is in GA4. How do we bring all these things together? And then how do we distill the story out of what that data is trying to tell us? That's another really big challenge that AI can help us with in a lot of ways, but it really feels difficult when you're trying to sort of unify all these different disparate systems. Then there's the learning curve, right? We have so many priorities. We have so many projects. All of us are working so hard to try to make an impact. We don't necessarily have time to learn AI. In a lot of ways, we need to learn AI's capabilities, but not necessarily the implementation of it. But that kind of brings us back to the first point where we're kind of waiting on our developer friends, which we love, but we need to be able to move pretty quick. And I think that really leads us to the last point, which is that we just want to make decisions faster. AI should speed things up, not slow them down. And I think that's why we kind of are at this weird moment right now where we realize the capabilities, we know what we can achieve, but we're kind of figuring out the implementation part and how can this really help me out. And additionally, we're also looking at what is hype and what is actually practical use cases. And I think you're going to see today there's some real practical, tangible benefits to having an AI-ready CMS. So let's kind of talk through some of that. So you'll see here like this, what does that gap look like? And I was kind of leading into this with my last bit there, the demand versus the reality. The demand, we know the demand, right? I mean, how many times have we talked about personalization? We know that our customers prefer brands that personalize, that it builds loyalty, trust, customer advocacy. It also gives us that, ability to cross sell because we understand their needs so much better. And we're hearing more and more at the leadership level that they are prioritizing AI and machine learning in order to create those personalized experiences faster than ever before. However, the reality is very few of us are able to fully utilize AI. A lot of us are kind of stuck in that piloting test phase. And if you think about it, that really makes a lot of sense where we're at in the timeline. We are talking about most people are going through web rebuilds every 3 years if you're lucky, to 8 years if you are maybe in a more budget challenged place. So that would mean that most of us are operating on CMSs that are 3 to 8 years old. And we're talking about a technology that really only came about and started to be mainstream adopted and really thrive in the last 1 to 2 years. So this makes sense that we're all kind of struggling with this. And the reality is when we're on an older CMS, we're doing a lot more manually. We're trying to find those data sources and distill those insights on our own. We're trying to blend data on our own. We're reaching out to our developers to help us with things. And it really just slows us down, not just from, just the implementation part of a campaign, but just from the even getting the campaign off the ground. So really it is a big barrier to us being able to move quickly, keep up with the pace of customer expectations, and then what is actually working. So, what is an AI ready CMS then? Well, really, what we're talking about when we talk about that is we're talking about platforms that can leverage AI tools easily. So, it's not necessarily platforms that are, going to do everything for you or have, your own proprietary AI behind them. No, we want platforms that are ready to be adapted into AI, that already are using AI capabilities that then we can expand on and then create custom solutions for you. So this is really about empowering marketers to be able to access those features without having to rely on engineering. So we're talking about systems that have AI already integrated with them that then provide a user interface and a user experience for the marketer, not necessarily for the developer. So it allows us, the sort of average marketers, to be able to go in, create campaigns, fill those insights, look at the data, and then tag, organize, and personalize that content in real time. So, this is a slide I really want us all to kind of focus on and think about. So, when you look at this and you think about how can AI help me? What does this really mean? We think about it in terms of tagging and organizing content, right? Looking at those taxonomies, understanding the relationships in our content, discovering new audience segments, looking at the data that's coming in from our audience. What are they telling us about their interests and their needs? Delivering those personalized recommendations. We know this audience is interested here. They need that. They're trying to achieve X. How do we personalize? How do we get them there faster? How do we get the right content in front of them? And then it also kind of dovetails into that smarter search on the site. So if they are stuck, how are we giving them more relevant information to get them unstuck? And then finally, we'd look at things like building a conversational or chat like experience that happens on our site that is something that they're already used to. They're engaging with AI on their own. But what I really want you to do is look at the slide and think about what we're actually saying here. We are saying that AI is going to help us discover new audience segments. What does that mean? That means prospecting, finding people that we didn't know were interested in us and what they're interested in, delivering personalized recommendations. What does that mean? That means cross selling, finding recommendations, products they may not be interested in, and putting it in front of them. Building conversational chat like experiences. What does that mean? That means improvement in user experience, delivering an experience to them that feels personal, that builds our brand and continues that brand loyalty. And those are the outcomes that we're looking at. These are great things that AI can do, but we need to think about what are the outcomes that these tasks are supporting. So that's what I really want you to take away from this slide. These are the outcomes that AI is going to help us achieve. Azia, why don't you show us how it's done? Because this is where it really gets fun and interesting.
Thanks, Christina. I think it was a great overview to what we have out there in the market, starting with what the challenges are and then what we need to be looking for in terms of a CMS to solve those challenges. And I just wanted to add one thing, which I believe is super important. What we also see that our customers are struggling with is not just, often they don't understand the AI. They don't have the time to be trained on it. It's hard for them to figure out what technology, what stack to use. But most importantly, people don't trust AI. And we are hearing that more often than not, especially when you're working on sensitive campaigns, working with sensitive data, to be sharing your information outside of your organization, outside of your content management system is not acceptable. And not just for sensitive organizations within sensitive industries, but I think across the board is what we are seeing. Hence, it is even more important that we are considering CMS platforms that can deliver these features out of the box, that we will allow you to keep your data, to keep it protected, to keep it proprietary and not share it with outside and third-party systems. So all of these features make sense, and what we see is that marketers can benefit from them when they're provided out of the box and are developed in a way that is compelling and that can allow them to stay on top of their game in a very competitive market, in a very hard market to be these days. And I just want to show you, we did this short overview of what features and what actually areas of features you need to be looking for into an AI-enabled CMS. But now I just want to show you a demo of something that we think is very exciting, something that our customers and prospects love and find very useful. And it is the AI page building agent. So as Christina said, the tools these days, their main goal is to help us do things easier with less development work, with less tickets, with less bottlenecks, and less time spent in waiting for somebody technical to jump in and help. And I think what this feature is about, what this, let's say, a combination of capabilities about is that it unblocks marketers to do the job independently without relying on technical resources. So I'm just going to show you a very quick demo.
Azia, while you're pulling that up, I really want to spend a minute kind of hovering on what you just said there, which was, the security aspect of it and people not trusting AI. I think all of us are so used to having to justify our spend, right? We're having to justify the reasons we want to spend in marketing and what the ROIs can be, what that impact is. And I have had so many conversations along the way with marketing teams who are like, how do I talk to IT or security and convince them that this is a worthy investment, a safe investment, a secure platform? And I think you really hit on something so important there, which is really emphasizing how this is a closed system. It is not something that is publicly available. Is not exposing your data to the public. Whereas if an average well-meaning marketer took screenshots of my data and plunked it into ChatGPT and asked for those insights, there could be very sensitive data in that I'm now exposing to the LLM. So I think what you said there is so important. I definitely don't want that to get lost, because the key takeaways of that are the security of it and protecting your data, and also that really building that argument to get buy-in from our IT teams to say, no, this is safe and here is why. We're avoiding by adopting something like this.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And all of us are struggling with the sensitivity aspect of our data, of our information. And what I'm just going to show you, it also touches a little bit upon those topics, because we're going to work with data when we create a landing page. We will need to stay on brand. We will need to be complying with certain brand guidelines, internal governance, anything that may apply to a brand these days. And as you know, using something that's outside and not approved by our organization may cause problems and risks. So hence the AI page building agent. I'm going to show you how AI can help you create pages literally in minutes without any involvement from a technical team. Pages that are on brand, that use your template, that are within your CMS. By just using a prompt. So imagine the way you talk to ChatGPT or any of the LLMs out there. That is what we're going to use to build a page, a landing page for our campaign within this AI page building agent. And I want to be prepared. So I actually created my prompt in advance, not to lose time on the webinar. So very quickly, I have a prompt here that I have created. So I work for a bank and we have an upcoming campaign that we have themed confidence under pressure. And I have made this extra special because I want to challenge our AI page builder with some like really nitty-gritty details that a marketer would ask, in this case, an AI page building agent to do. So I have created a prompt. You can also chat with the agent and ask for these things one by one and tweak the page as you go. But I would prefer for anything to be for everything to be set up from the beginning. So I have described to the LLM what I want. So I want for this page to show how our financial products and services support customers, especially small businesses. And as you can see, this is already my audience that I want the page to be tweaked for. Small businesses when they're facing tight deadlines, financial stress, or rapid decision-making needs. So those of you on the call who are dealing with messaging, they would already see, okay, this is probably my key messaging team that I want for this campaign for this landing page to take into account. And then I also want to have a hero section on the page. I want to have a brief campaign narrative, key value propositions, featured banking, products or solutions. And then I also want to have some social proof like security assurance or testimonial, the typical things that a marketer would ask for. And then, of course, a clear call to action. So I'm just going to copy this prompt and I'm going to our page building agent. So this is the interface and I click start building pages with AI. Because this AI page builder exists within Sitefinity, I first need to connect to my website so that actually the page building agent knows where to pull the templates from, what governance to take into consideration, what brand elements need to be reflected in that page. So I will very quickly connect to my website. And then as you can see, there is already the interface where I paste my prompt. So we tighten this up a little bit and then we start creating. So there you go, you see the prompt and then the page building agent is starting to process my prompt. This will take a couple of minutes because this agent actually is a collection of agents that it pulls together for the job. So it is an SEO agent, branding agent, UI agent, and so on and so forth. And because I didn't want to spend time waiting for the agent to come together to pull together the actual result, I already have done that in advance. So we can actually go ahead and see how the actual page looks like. There you go.
Yeah,
So
and
we
my
have a
guess is
page.
if you had
Yeah.
told it, if you had templates already, brand standards, your own things, you could cite those within the prompt, and that might shorten up that response time. Would that be correct?
Yes, I have actually said that in the requirements, use our landing page template to ensure the new page stays fully on brand. But as it basically needs to pull together images, query the library, put the text, it takes a little bit of time still
Mhm.
to have it the way we want it to be. And I think I have tried this with very complex prompts. So the more complex the prompt is, of course, the longer it takes.
Yeah. That
So
was
yeah,
like 10 seconds. So what are we really talking about,
yeah.
right?
Yes. So, and I mean, we can, of course, go through this and do a quick check. We have the hero banner. We have like get started call to action. If we read through the messaging queue, you'll see that it is actually on par with what we have requested it to do. So take control under pressure, secure business banking with Quantum Digital Bank. We have some, campaign reference here at the top. And then we have some, let's say, value propositions, rapid financing, real-time support, bank grade security. We have our featured financial solutions. So these are the offers that we have put here on the website. And then as you scroll down, you can also see the social proof, the testimonials, the security assurance, the ratings, and ending the page with a form, with a gated form and a clear CTA. So the AI has done the job. But then I think what I have also done in advance to show you what you can continue to do if you want to tweak this experience is that you can continue prompt the agent to tweak and adjust and optimize your page the way you want. So what I did here is that I asked the agents to make the H1 title more actionable. I didn't like this initial title, and then I asked it to make it more actionable. So I think the previous one that I had here was confidence under pressure. And then as you can see, the result, take control under pressure, secure business banking with quantum digital bank. So this is the result of basically prompting the agent to do more. I can even ask, can you make the CTA button blue? Let's see if that's gonna work, just for the purposes of testing how our AI page building agent works. So it will need to finalize a little bit of code. We go down. And as you can see, in a matter of seconds, our main button at the top of the page got updated to blue, exactly what I asked for. And this is how it works. Like, you can continue to prompt it to do further adjustments to your page. However, I think where it really comes down to the control and power marketers get is that you can actually continue and tweak this page manually. Add anything you want to, tweak the content the way you want, and make it really to your liking. So if we go and click publish, and I have done this in advance so that we can easily jump into the interface, the backend interface of Sitefinity. So you can save as a draft, publish, and go in there and start editing your page. So you can add more widgets. You can edit the text. So this is a typical interface of what you see is what you get editor, where you can manually, the way you are used to, edit and tweak your page the way you want. So this is what the page building agent looks like and what it does. And I will now go back to the presentation to continue with the slides.
You know what's so great about this, Asia, too, is I'm thinking about how this applies to our clients. And, we work with a number of banks and financial institutions, and I'm thinking about their governance process. A lot of our clients really make use of the governance and permissioning within Sitefinity, so that when a content editor creates a page, they don't publish, but they do publish to the next step, which is usually a compliance officer who then reviews it before that then goes public. But think about what we just did now, what you just demoed. We shortened the time to market for that landing page just astronomically. And by pushing that to compliance, that compliance officer can review that page. We're talking about getting an offer to market in a matter of hours, maybe even. I mean, this is like really incredible. And when you think about too, like, we hear from compliance officers, they have certain words they don't like, they have certain things they don't like, and we start to learn, like, oh, these are the little pitfalls, these are the things I need to avoid. And my guess is we can tell the AI agent, avoid these words, avoid these things, and then by the time that learns, the model learns, I can't use that, I can't say that, the compliance process then shortens significantly. So now we're talking about, I mean, it's just the I get excited because I think about, like, oh my God, we can put offers out there. We can think of an idea in the morning and it's up by lunchtime. Like, that's amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, I can see that you're excited. I'm excited too. It is something that actually literally is lifesaver sometimes because we use it as well. And thinking of the old process where to have a landing page, you need to start a project with a web team, numerous tickets, project initiation, and so on and so forth. So it's a very tedious, very sometimes slow process that we have actually been able to cut tremendously with this one. And we speak of hours. That is true. Like, with the governments, with the compliance that this needs to go through, I think we can launch something within a day, which I think is amazing. And, what can a marketer ask for? And just to recap on what we just saw. So this was what we just showed was an interface that helps marketers build pages from scratch using prompts the way they're used to if they use ChatGPT or any of the available LLM tools out there. And how this works is that you just enter your prompt. So it can be a longer, with more details and requirements, or a very short prompt. Then the AI agent generates the page layout, the copy, the imagery based on your prompt and what you have asked it to do. And as a next step, you can prompt the agent for additional variants, for further optimization, to change the language, to avoid certain words, as we just mentioned, anything you want. Before you, as a final step, save as a draft or publish or go into the CMS, into the backend, and tweak that page manually the way you want. So this is what this experience provides marketers. No heavy lifting, no coding, on brand, following your brand guidelines, your templates, and creating just pages in minutes. I think, what can we say more about that? Okay, so as we have one more demo, I would move forward in the presentation. But before we look at the next demo, I just wanted to come back to something that we started with as part of Not every marketer, not every organization is at the same level of maturity when it comes to their marketing strategy, content strategy, the way they use AI, or even where they are in their experience with the CMS. And as Christina said, some of us have been sitting on a CMS for 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 8 plus years sometimes. And what we have developed to basically help our customers and our prospects, analysts, the people we talk to, understand how to best classify the world of CMS, and then also to know what they're looking for when they come looking for a CMS, know how to assess different CMSs and to understand what capabilities do I actually need. We have developed this maturity model, and I wanted to just show it very briefly what it means, what it does. So we start with level 1. This is where everything is taking place manually in an old, legacy, non-AI enabled CMS system where the content is generic, so the same content is served to all of our audiences. It's static. Often it's inconsistent, and we don't have personalization, and the data we use is also very limited. I think a lot of you will recognize themselves. At least until a couple of years ago, this was our reality as a marketers and content editors. I think the implications are clear: hard to scale, poor experience, hard to make ROI from the campaigns we are launching. Unfortunately, there's still still organizations that struggle on that level. However, as we move up into the maturity model and look at level 2, where we talk about assisted optimization. So what do we have here? And I think that what we just showed, the AI page building agent is in that category because it is a capability that will assist the marketer, will enhance the role of marketers and content editors to create campaign pages, to work on their conversion, to improve their content for SEO, and so on and so forth. But most importantly, on level 2, what we talk about is that we are moving away from one-to-many generic content to one-to-many personalization based on segments. And here Christina talked about that some of the features that are on that maturity level, for example, auto-segment discovery, personas, rules that we can apply in our CMS that will use our customer data to help us at least be able to personalize to a certain audience. And things like, as I already mentioned, auto-segment discovery, propensity scoring, what is the probability of a certain persona, of a certain segment to convert, content recommenders that will also help enhance the experience and the engagement with the end users, and so on and so forth. I think the outcome here is better content quality, faster updates, less manual effort. And then at level 3, what we have is that AI is actually now taking more and more of the responsibilities and the decision making, so that, for example, we can automate entire workflows, entire actions. AI can recommend some changes. It can analyze performance. And here, what we are looking for is that the marketer is still able to keep control if they want to, or entirely hand off things to the AI for the AI to make decisions, optimize things on the fly, and so on. So this is, as you can see, higher level of optimization, of guidance that the CMS is providing to the marketer. And then the fourth level, where we'll spend a little bit more time talking about, this is what we call autonomous experience. And believe me or not, but we are moving towards these autonomous experiences faster than we could have ever anticipated. As you can saw, like AI creating pages, AI adapting pages, and even pages that can adapt and self-optimize. It's something that is not high-tech anymore, but something that we actually have available today. Capability that will help us create one-to-one hyper-personalized journeys for each visitor, and then again, without coding, without manual work, without depending on IT tickets. And that is what I want to show you as a next step, a very short demo. But before we do that, let's just look into what this autonomous CMS or generative CMS can do for us. Like, what does it mean to have a dynamically generated digital experience? It means that we combine the data, the information, the content we have within our CMS together with our website structure, any templates, any widgets, any components. We combine that with the customer data that we have within our CDP. And if the CDP is integrated with the CMS, it is even better because then we utilize that connection. So any web data, traffic, content performance, conversion, propensity, behavior, anything that you can think of. And then the third piece is that we add the user intent to that. So it could be, and I'll show you how it works. So a way to collect what our users want from our experience. And based on that, basically, and using some of the agents, and the AI page building agent that I just showed you was an example for that. But there could be other agents, design agent, brand, localization agent, SEO agent. So combining these agents, using them to deliver experiences that are generated on the fly based on what the user wants, what they have come for, without using any manual rules or any manual personalization scoring mechanisms, just letting the AI do the work for us so that the experience is adapting based on who the user is, what they are looking for, and what their goal is at the end, what they want to leave this website with. And without spending any more time talking about it, I actually wanted to show you very quickly. It's a super short demo, but super powerful to demonstrate what dynamically generated experiences mean in practice.
That's so great. We've spent so much time talking about that. That's kind of been our marketer's dream for years, right? These dynamically generated experiences. And it's so exciting if you've been in this game for a long time to see it finally coming to life. But not only just coming to life, but coming to life in a way that's actually accessible and easy for the marketer to achieve it. Years ago when we would talk about dynamically generated experiences, it meant there's going to be a lot of code involved. There's going to be a lot of custom implementation, custom crafting. It was a totally different game. So to be at a place now where we're able to do this and a marketer is able to log into the CMS and start working on these things, it's just really exciting what we can achieve.
It's totally true. And I think the coding, the fact that we often as marketers depend on our IT friends to do something for us, it's one problem, but I think even the more serious problem is that it's been so hard to figure out how to personalize because there's so many things you need to consider. You need to build personas, you need to build rules, you need to build scoring into your CMS. Often the CDP or the marketing automation tool that can do that for you, it's not integrated with the CMS, so you need someone to integrate that for you.
Yes.
Then you need to build segments. Then you need to create like 1,000 variants that you want to use for your personalization. And I think people have struggled. I think that's what we have seen across the board. And based on what we have seen and what our customers are experiencing is why we developed this, why we decide, okay, let's see how can we simplify, how can we create something that, as you say, marketers can log in and then just do that and set up the experience in a way that will just work for them.
Mhm.
And as you
Yeah,
can
Asia,
see,
I've done so
yeah,
many speaking engagements on personalization. I've talked to our clients across verticals, not just financial, but across verticals. And the number one thing I hear as a barrier is we don't have the time. We don't know what to look at. We don't know how to create it's so much content you need to create for a personalized experience. And then how do we get it just becomes this like big thing. And if you've come to any of my webinars, if you've seen me speak at anything, I'm big believer in start small, see what happens,
yes.
let's test. But the best part of this is that we don't necessarily need to start small anymore. We can jump in with something awesome. We're starting small, yes, in the terms of like we're putting out an initiative, we're piloting something, but we can make it such a broader user base than ever before because we have this technology to power it.
I totally feel that, and I'm getting goosebumps as I hear that because I think that's what we have struggled with. And yes, we don't need to start small. We don't need to because some things are available today. I'm just going to show you a very basic example, but just to make this super clear. So again, we have a banking site. I guess we love banks, so that's what we have prepared for today.
We love banks
So
too. It's all good.
we have a quantum digital banking landing page, fictitious bank. And this is some very generic experience. We have a search field, which we're going to use just in a moment. But then you can see like some more content, some stuff when you go down there and so on. So what I'm just going to do now is there is this intent field. Like it's actually a search field, but we like to say that this is intent capture field because the goal with this field is that it's going to capture the intent that the user has come with. So I had put something here. How can I save more? But I don't know. Like we have some preceded intent here. When we need to buy a new place for a living, or I want an electric car, I'll just click. I need to increase my savings. Let's just use this one. And as you can see, the moment the user clicks, like submits their intent, asks the question, or whatever that may be, the page, it takes a couple of seconds, but then the content on this page optimizes on the fly or gets regenerated on the fly. And as you can see, save smarter and reach your financial goals with Quantum Bank. We have like some offerings here, personal savings account, some frequently asked questions. I can go back and I can say, okay, I need a loan for electric car. Just to test it, we click enter, and then the same thing happens. It takes a couple of seconds, but then the page gets regenerated. And as you can see, the images are totally different. Finance your electric vehicle with Quantum Bank, CV and hybrid car loan. The content is different. We have frequently asked questions and a CTA. So we can play this game the whole time. So what it does basically is that this experience stays on brand. It stays within your predefined template of this page. It actually uses your content, because the thing is that this content that we just see, it's not that the AI just generated it, based on ChatGPT or anything. This is content that's in your CMS. So you're sitting on that content and you just don't use it. But what we do here is that, because this is using a very advanced technology, search, retrieval, and generation, RAG, or retrieval and augmented generation, it can query your content and just put this experience together based on what the user is looking for. And we can go further. We can even make so that the head banner also changes. I didn't do that for the demo because I just wanted to show you a very simple example. We can add more sections that will get regenerated because this experience is using widgets. So we can set up the widgets the way we want and make the page as long as we want, leverage as many content elements as we want it to leverage. And then each single element will be updated instantly based on what the user is looking for today. So that is what we call dynamically generated experiences. I personally find it super exciting. It has a tremendous potential to help us make our experiences more engaging, hyper-personalized, delivering one-on-one tailored messages. So I think we can only dream big when I see that. And also the next step is, like, currently we just use the intent field for capturing the needs of our user. But the plans for these capabilities to actually leverage the data in your CDP, in your customer data platform. So once somebody visits the page, that actually based on who they are, what they have visited in the past, what campaigns, what content, so that the system actually knows and generates the experience just tailored for that specific user.
Mhm.
So that is all that I had for today. So I will switch back to the presentation so that we continue with our final slides. And I hope
Yeah,
that you liked what you
that's
just
so
saw.
cool, Azia. I'm like already I'm starting to think of like all the applications for this and all the ways that we can even like I think what you're showing is so great and it's so impactful, but still, even still with how impactful it is, it's really just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's so much more that we can do once the model starts learning, once we start realizing like what data we can use, additional data sources, things out of third-party data sources that are maybe helping us that we can start feeding in and identifying, prospecting more. with personalization, that really expands. And then, for me, I'm always trying to think of ways too of how do we, deliver products and, experiences and information that the user may not realize they need. I mean, think about all of us out there, on Amazon or wherever, and they're suggesting things, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't even know
Yeah.
I needed that, and now I need it. And I think that's where we can get into some really cool stuff when we start to think about we have this capability, and we can use it at a really great impactful way, even at its like slimmest point. But then when we start talking about pulling in external data sources and some of our real-time data too on our customers and what they have already, maybe they've adopted from us product wise, or what maybe some of their key life indicators are, so we can start to anticipate their needs, that's when we can really start to do some cool stuff.
Yeah, and of course, I need to stress that it is on brand within compliance with pre-approved templates, language, whatever we want it to do. And of course, the data is your data. It doesn't just do and generate something out of nowhere. So this is the
Hmm.
content that we are all sitting on, that we've created. Think of all of the campaigns where we have created content and we've never used them for one reason or another. And they're sitting in the CMS, and it's just money left on the table. So with what we have just delivered, it's just fresh out of the kitchen, out of the oven. We believe that this will be a game changer for marketers, for content editors, for CMS customers in the future, and I'm so excited. It's just what I can say. I guess we can start wrapping up. So I'll leave that to you
Yeah.
to just summarize what we have looked at today.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, we're obviously both very pumped. And my hope is that everybody listening to this is also pumped and starting to already think. And I would be shocked if they're not already thinking about all the applications in their own business and the things that the projects they've been trying to get off the ground, so the things that they can do with this. So, how do we get started today? We've seen this. Ozzy, you've given us these amazing demos. You've shown us the capabilities. So, what happens next? Well, really, I think it comes down to a couple things because, let's be honest, like adopting a new CMS, that's a big project. And there's a lot of things that go into that. So that's not going to be a decision that likely happens today. We can set ourselves up to make some really informed choices and start to look at what's possible by auditing our current state. So looking at what works for us. Are there AI capability gaps? Do we not know where our data is housed? Do we not know what data we have? So those types of things. We can start to define, what does AI ready mean for us? So what are those business goals? So much like I touched on earlier in the presentation, we talked about the outcomes. How can AI help us deliver outcomes? So what are those outcomes we are looking to deliver? And then how can AI support those? We want to take a look at our content ecosystem. So our content, do we have very complex content? Do we need a lot more content? How does that jive with the resources that we have? Do we have folks in house that are capable of producing this at the velocity that we need? A lot of times, I'll be honest, the answer to that is no, because there's so much when it comes to content and content development that it's always been a pretty consistent struggle that I see across teams. And then we have to think of too about that workflow integration. So I kind of touched on that with the compliance comment earlier of how do we get that content through compliance? How do we get it live into production? What does that workflow look like? Do we have good governance there? Are there ways that this can really shorten our time to market? I will tell you, I can't imagine there's any application where this doesn't shorten time to market, if we're being totally honest. There's so much here that is going to take a lot off of our plate. Then we need to start to think about the data integrations. Now, this is where we start to think about where are we pulling in this data from? What are we comfortable with as an organization? Because not every organization is the same. We have some organizations that are okay with it. We have some that are a little bit more on the conservative side. But that's when we start to think about, again, Asia's great point of the fact that it's a closed system and we're really providing for that security. And that really cannot be undersold. Like that, that is so important. And that can be the difference between, getting your organization to start to be excited about adopting this technology, or this something becoming something that you kind of have to fight for? So we really want to take a look at that. Does it connect to our analytics? Where does it play in our marketing stack? Making sure that there's support there. Any platform you look at, you want to make sure that you're evaluating on some of those metrics around the APIs that are available and where we're able to bring in those integrations. And then finally, we touched on this a little bit too with talking about our friends in IT. How do we get that team buy-in? Because ultimately, if we can provide all the information, we have the data, we have Azia's demo to be able to say, hey, look at all the great things this can do. That will get our marketing team excited. It's gotten, the two of us excited already. But how do we bring in our IT team leadership and really start to talk about this is why it's important and this is what it can do for you? So that's where I would say, like, when you're thinking about this and you're taking this away today, I want you to think through these steps of how you can start to make a case, how you can start to generate some excitement, and really talk about what the real life impact of a tool like this could be. If you want to continue the conversation, or you maybe need some help kind of forming that or thinking through some of those thoughts, Ozzy and I are both available to chat with you one-on-one. We love having these conversations. We love, working with you through your specific problems. So definitely connect with either of us on LinkedIn, or you're able to email me if you want. We can schedule a one-on-one and talk through your specific situation, maybe your specific challenges, and where we can help support you on that journey. I think we've got so much available at our fingertips now, but it sometimes helps to have someone just kind of guide you through and also kind of give you some ideas based on what we've seen work for our clients. So definitely reach out. Don't hesitate. We loved having this conversation with you. So thanks so much for joining today. I hope you got some great info out of it. I hope you're as energized as we are, and we will catch you on the next one.